action version of Moana.
Why? It's not even that old.
Money.
Oh yes, of course. But Mickey, people are getting tired of these movies. Surprisingly, a large amount of people were into them in the first place.
Oh yeah, remember the live action Lion King? What the hell was live action about it? The ground? Oh, I can't believe these suckers actually pay for these movies.
But there are better movies you could make live action adaptions of.
Like what?
Sword in the Stone for one thing, you could probably make an entire trilogy out of it.
That's not a bad idea. I'll make Arthur into a woman and Madame Mim will have a redemption arc. Oh, and of course, some of the background knights will be ethnically diverse with no lines.
Why give her a redemption arc? Her name is literally Mad Madame Mim. Mad is in her name. Also, do you know how angry people will be if you make Arthur into a woman? And let me guess, you're also going to allow them to learn magic and be better at it than Merlin.
Haha, of course! But why is it a problem if I make her into a woman? The Faint Stay series did that and you love that anime!
Because there was actually a purpose behind it and it actually added to the story. Okay, I understand that movie, aside from Madame Mim, had no female characters in it. Okay, here's a good one, Atlantis: The Lost Empire, that had plenty of strong female characters.
Oh, perfect! I can talk about the evils of capitalism in it!
Okay, I gotta pick something that not even you can ruin. I got it. How about Treasure Planet?
I didn't even want to make the hand-drawn version! Why would I make a live-action version?
Black Cauldron?
I made that?
The point I'm trying to make, Mickey, is that you're picking probably the worst movies to make into live-action adaptions.
You know, you're actually probably right. I should make a live-action adaptation of the Cars movies!
No!
And then Finding Nemo!
Please, no!
Toy Story?
No! Wait, actually, I think that could work.
Haha, yeah! We're gonna have Andy being played by a black actor!
So let me get this straight. Andy, the guy whose father is never around, is gonna be played by a black guy.
Right on the money, Jor!
Okay, you know what, Mickey? I'm done. The skit isn't very funny and it has gone on for way too long. I just want to share my thoughts on all the Disney live-action movies so far, and why I don't like them.
Wow, real original! You're only the 500th person to do that! And they say I'm out of ideas!
So, funny story, when I was a wee little robot, my mother and father board had a lot of old VHS tapes, and they had commercials on them. Yeah, sure, you could fast forward past them, but that would require getting up from the couch, and even then they didn't fast forward all that fast. Yeah, the 90s were a pretty awful time. I really like Disney movies, and almost all of them had a commercial for the live-action adaptation of 101 Dalmatians, the very first live-action Disney movie ever made. Of course, with so many commercials advertising it, I just wanted to see it so badly, so I asked my parents to get it for me. So they decided to go to the streaming service equivalent in the early 2000s. That's right, it was Blockbuster! And as a child who thought every movie I saw was the greatest movie of all time, I sat down, watched it, and was completely disappointed. It was worse than the original 101 Dalmatians by a very large margin. I'll give Glenn Close credit though, she really hams up her role as Corella. Yeah, most YouTubers who I see go over all the live-action Disney movies, they tend to skip this one, along with Lady and the Tramp and Pete's Dragon, cause, like, those movies are just completely forgettable. I also think I'm gonna skip the Pete's Dragon one because aside from making the dragon live-action, or, well, live-action in terms of CGI, the original movie was also mostly done in live-action, and also I didn't see the original, so, yeah, I'm gonna skip this one. Now, there are generally about 3 different ways that the public will feel about any of these movies. They're either pointless, bland, an absolute travesty, and sometimes a combination of 2 of them, or even all 3 at the same time. Let's start with the pointless. These are the ones that are just so similar to the original that there was no point for them to be even made in the first place. Now, of course, there's the very, very first live-action Disney adaptation of 101 Dalmatians and... what was that? There was a live-action adaptation of The Jungle Book 2 years before that movie even came out? Huh. Wow, first time I'm ever hearing about this one. Well, my review of that movie is, I've never seen it. It seems a lot different from the original, so I would say it's more bland than pointless. The pointless ones include 101 Dalmatians, the Lion King movie, especially, and the Jungle Book movie. The main thing holding back the Lion King movie is the lack of expressions on all the characters' faces. Like, I know the voice actors are doing their best, but Jesus, can the animators make the characters, you know, look slightly different different, please? Just as pointless as Lion King was the Lady and the Tramp movie on Disney+. Yeah, it didn't even make it to theaters. Aside from adding in some unique scenes like Tramp's owner abandoning him, and the movie being less racist, I mean the Siamese cats are not in this movie, and it's really diverse. My god, black characters are actually doing something! It's just the exact same movie as the original. The live-action Jungle Book is surprisingly well liked by a lot of people, and I personally think it's different enough to stand on its own. Fun fact, did you know that the person who wrote the Jungle Book also wrote Rikki Tikki Tavi and The White Man's Burden? I think you only need to see the cover to understand what The White Man's Burden is about. So yeah, whenever you see any version of the Jungle Book movies, just know that it came from the same author who wrote The White Man's Burden. There are some weird additions like Shere Khan killing Mowgli's father and swearing revenge against his spawn because he burnt his face, but also some cool additions like Mowgli using his ingenuity. And then there's stuff that doesn't make any sense at all, like Mowgli never returning back to the man village. I mean, doesn't he do that in like every version? In 101 Dalmatians, the Dalmatians don't talk at all. Now you can make the argument that it makes the film more mature, and with the technology they had back then, yeah, it would look really awkward if they had the dogs talk. But here's my issue with it. It's literally the one thing that's different. I mean, I guess you can make the argument that there are some smaller details as well, but that's the big one. But I will say 102 Dalmatians was nothing at all like the animated 101 Dalmatians 2 movie. The scene where Corella was in that cake was just hilarious. And the parrot was a really good addition to this movie as well. Oh yeah, critics hated this movie, but I enjoyed it. Isn't it weird to think that there used to be a time when Disney didn't have all the critics in their pocket? Some of you also may say that the Pinocchio movie should go in this section, but no, trust me. It is pointless, but it's also an absolute travesty of a movie, so I'm going to be putting it in that section. Anyways, let's move on to the Bland movies, starting with Beauty and the Beast. Emma Watson, aka Hermione Cringer, is just such a horrible singer. They really should have just dubbed her singing voice. I don't even think Justin Bieber ever had this much auto-tuning in his voice. Despite this movie being longer, the pacing is so much more faster. Instead of having emotional moments, it just zooms past everything so quickly. Remember in the animated version when Gaston planned out that whole wedding, he came in to hit on Belle, but then she opened the door causing him to fall into the pigsty? In this version, it's just, Bill, marry me. No, okay. Or when she comes to save her father, remember when she had to think about her decision, and then we had the slow reveal of the beast? In this version, both of those things happen immediately. No, there's a few good changes, like Gaston being in the military. It doesn't lead to anything, but he's in it. And then some odd changes like the beast having a book that can teleport you. I thought the point of the mirror was that it was his only window to the outside world, much like a computer screen was for people during the pandemic. If the spell isn't broken, all the servants would actually become inanimate objects. Wow, it sounds like the beast, despite fucking up, got the better end of the deal. Oh yeah, Belle's also an inventor. I guess it works since her father was one, so logically she could also be one. I wouldn't say this is a girl boss moment because she still has to be saved by the beast, but by far the weirdest change is when they tried to cover up a plot hole. Remember how in the original it didn't really make much sense that there's a whole castle there and the people should know that their prince is missing, yet they never go visit the castle to see what's up? Well, in this version, the enchantress erases the town folks' memory. Some of the town folks have friends and family who live in the castle, and their memory of them was erased for a decade. Like, don't get me wrong, in the original movie, the enchantress was a huge bitch. Oh, there's no love in your heart, so I'm gonna curse you, and all your servants as well. But in this version, she's even worse, erasing people's memories, breaking up households, and almost killing an entire castle's worth of people by turning them into objects. God damn, this enchantress is even more evil than Wanda from WandaVision. Yeah, this is a problem I've been having with movies in general. Someone who's meant to be good do some of the most evil, diabolical actions. But I guess everything she did was worth it in the end to teach one guy a lesson. Anyways, let's move on to Dumbo. Admit it, you forgot they made a live-action version of this. This version is very different because we're not following Dumbo and none of the animals talk. Okay, I guess in the original Dumbo also didn't talk, but the other animals did. Instead, we focus on these human characters, like this one guy who was in the circus, but then he went to war and lost an arm. Boy, that guy sure looks like he could use a hand, as well as the conductor and all these other circus performers. I think the main thing that drags down this movie, though, are the child actors. They are so wooden and boring. And the other major issue is, of course, the villain. He's a greedy, evil rich businessman who buys out the circus once he discovers Dumbo can fly. But Dumbo wants to be with his mom, so he decides to get rid of his mother. Wait, why? Yeah, this movie is pretty nonsensical, but I'm gonna be honest here, I definitely think it's one of the better Disney live-action remakes. I really question if I should put Alice in Wonderland on this list, because it's not a remake, it's a sequel. I kind of wish all the Disney live-action movies were sequels. Instead of minorities in the background doing nothing, we have white people in the background doing nothing. I can't wait for those roles to be filled up with minorities in the future. Now, as a white man, I don't mean to speak for all black people when I say, actually, no, I do speak for all black people, and all people in general when I say, no one throughout all of fucking history has looked at a background character and said, I wish to be represented by that. You can literally replace them with cardboard cutouts. Alice is supposed to be a defiant, out there, most unorthodox woman. It's too bad that the actress is more bland than tofu on a rice cracker. In Wonderland, Alice gets a scroll that can predict the future. It sounds like whoever has that would automatically win, seeing that they can see into the future, but whatever. Ah yes, that's what the story of Alice always needed. A prophecy story. There's even a part where they ask, who will fight for the White Queen? And a bunch of people step forward and say, I am Spartacus. But then they take out the squirrel that can predict the future and they say, no, it has to be Alice. Why was that scene in the movie? There's a bunch of political talks and battle strategy. Who wrote this? George Lucas? Someone somewhere looked at the Cheshire Cat and the Mad Hatter and thought to themselves, it would be pretty interesting if those guys got involved with the cause. Actually, now that I consider the modern day candidates in the USA, that's not that much of a stretch. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, doesn't Wonderland have cake that can make you into a giant? Yep, and no one will use it for warfare. Oh yeah, let's not forget about the super annoying plot point about Alice thinking this is all just a dream. It's just so annoying, and it's even treated like a twist when she realizes, oh my god, this isn't a dream! But the absolute best plot twist of all is that Alice this whole time was actually Alice!
Oh, hey Jar, guess what?
What, Mickey?
This entire time, you've been the YouTuber Just a Robot!
Oh my god, I had no idea! And as for the big epic final battle, I'm not gonna lie, I think they should have switched the ending of this movie with She-Hulk's ending. But overall, this is one of the better Disney sequels in my opinion. And aside from 101 Dalmatians, I believe this is the only Disney live-action movie to get a sequel. It starts with Alice being a ship captain, and the actress can actually act! Holy shit, this is good! Oh, never mind, they're talking about house bonds, company shares, and other nonsense like that.
Oh no, so will she have to sell her ship to save her mother's house? Oh look, there's the mirror that leads to Wonderland. Oh no, the guests are coming through. Alex, you better hurry up and get in there before they...
Well, wait, why does she have to go through the looking glass before they come in? Like, what are they gonna do? They're not chasing her. Whatever. Okay, so what's the plot of this movie? Well, you see, in the last movie, the Mad Hatter's family was killed by the Jabberwocky. Oh no, if only he had a scroll to predict the future, so that could have been avoided easily. So he's depressed, and because Alice is not from their world, she can go to the center of time to time travel, but if she runs into her past self, she will destroy the universe, and, really? Risking the universe to save one life. Wait, I'm sorry, not save one life, fix one guy's depression. And I thought what the Enchantress from Beauty and the Beast did was stupid, but this is on a whole nother level.
Jar, I'm depressed.
Don't worry, Professor Dreadlock. Because I am a robot, I can travel through time. Now granted, there is a chance that this could destroy the entire universe, but it's a risk I'm willing to make for your mental health.
Whoa, just wait. My depression isn't worth the entire universe. I'm good, buddy. Bye.
Okay, anyways, aside from that plot being really stupid, the rest of the movie is fine. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, it turns out everything that has happened throughout all of the Alice in Wonderland movies was because of tarts. Well, I gotta say, that's retarded. Anyways, let's move on to Maleficent, the one and only Disney live-action remake that I actually saw in theaters. Why is that? Well, it's because the trailers lied to me. I thought this was gonna be the story from the villain's perspective, and that fight, which I thought was going to be the climax, looked pretty badass. Turns out that fight isn't the climax, it's actually really early on in the movie, and nothing is even close to as cool as it. Maleficent was actually a fairy, the kindest and nicest of the them all. Kind of weird that her name was Maleficent, which means to wish evil on others, but whatever. Wouldn't it be interesting if she had a different name and then got that name later on? Kind of like Lucifer to the devil or Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader. Who the fuck names their kid Maleficent? That would be like me shagging a Mexican woman and naming our kid Diablo. And of course, the twins would be named Juan and Tu. But the good news is she's no longer evil for the sake of being evil. She actually has a reason now. She fell in love with a human boy who, let's just say, defeathered her. The human boy later becomes the king, and now he's evil for the sake of being evil. And before you say, oh no, he did something evil so he could become king. Well, the thing is, the wings can reattach to her body, so he could have been like, yo, Maleficent, you want your wings back? Now that I'm king, there will be no more attacks on your forest. Pretty based and red-pilled, right?
Oh boy, thank you so much. You're so dreamy. Let's get married and combine our kingdoms into one.
Based. So remember when the princess is born, two of the fairies give her gifts, and the third one was about to do something, but then Maleficent showed up and cursed her. Then the third fairy gave her one last gift, that she would be revived by true love's kiss. Well, instead, the third fairy doesn't give her a gift, and Maleficent just makes a convenient loophole to get around her magic. Wow, it's almost like it's an unneeded change that makes this movie worse. Maleficent finds the princess immediately, they become friends. The prince is not the one to save her, it's Maleficent, because Frozen made a lot of money. She doesn't turn into a dragon, it's her crow. Oh yeah, and Fairy's weakness is iron. Now, I know that's lore accurate, but seriously, iron? That's one of the worst weaknesses to possibly have. So you know how I said 101 Dalmatians and Alice in Wonderland were the only two Disney live-action remakes that got sequels? Well, Maleficent got one as well. I completely forgot because I didn't see it, but then I decided to sit down and watch it, and holy shit, this movie is insane. So Maleficent doesn't want her daughter marrying the prince boy because she doesn't like humans. Wait a second, wasn't that her story arc in the last movie, to trust humans? Whatever. The prince's mother, the evil queen, frames Maleficent for killing the king. Maleficent finds out that she's not the only one of her race. There's a whole bunch of other Maleficents out there. The whole movie is boring until we get to the final battle. Holy shit, is there a lot of death in this. And the characters don't come back either. They're dead. The movie feels like you're watching Twilight, but then all of a sudden you land on the remote and it flips to a channel which is playing the ending battle of Man of Steel. I would actually go as far as to say this movie might actually be the best one so far. Not because it's good at all, but because it's so bad it's good. The queen becomes a goat at the end. The two warring factions decide to make peace even though they were just trying to kill each other a minute ago. It's just amazing. Now we get to the final movie for this section, Aladdin. It's both pointless and bland at the same time. Because of the very unfortunate passing of Robin Williams, the genie is instead played by Will Smith. If Robin Williams was still alive and played the genie instead, god, this movie would be a cajillion times better. Wait a second, aren't genies slaves to their master? Why is he played by a black guy? Just like with the Beauty and the Beast movie, despite it being longer, it really rushes through a lot of scenes. Remember how long it took last time for the Cave of Wonders to chomp on that guy and ask for a diamond in the rough? Well, this time it's briefly in the intro. If you blink, you might miss it. Remember when Jafar had to steal that diamond from the king to figure out who the diamond in the rough was? Well, this time he just knows it's Aladdin for some reason. Remember that guy who told Aladdin that he was born a street rat, will die a street rat, and only his fleas will mourn him? Remember all the emotion we saw in Aladdin's face? In this version, he's just like, yeah, that guy's kind of a dick. But don't worry, instead we get a lot of political talk about a place called Shiraba. Isn't it amazing that we got more political talks in this movie and Alice in Wonderland over the Star Wars sequel movies? Oh, don't worry, I will be getting to those in the future. Because this is live action, everything that was done in the animated version was done better and had way more energy behind it. The worst casting by far is the actor for Jafar. Good God, I think I owe the actress from Alice in Wonderland an apology. Instead of a giant snake, we got a giant fucking parrot. So did this movie do anything better at all? Well, the parrot isn't voiced by Guilford Godfrey, so I guess that's one point. Okay, now it's time we move on to the third and final section, the Disney live-action remakes that were absolute travesties. Starting with the 2021 Disney live-action adaptation of the Cinderella movie. So far, this is absolutely worst Disney live-action adaptation that I have talked about in this video so far.
Sure,
What is it, Mickey? Are you about to defend this movie?
no, I think it's shit as well. all.
Oh, well, I'm glad you could agree that one of your movies is shit.
No, cause I didn't actually make this one.
Wait, you didn't?
No, it was Amazon.
Oh, I thought it was because it feels like something you would make.
But I did make one in 2015.
Huh, I haven't seen that one yet, but I bet it's even worse than the Amazon one. The casting and the acting is actually good. Helena Bonham Carter, the actress with the name I still can't pronounce, is actually enjoyable in this movie. Cinderella actually has good chemistry with the prince. She meets him before she goes to the ball, and she was originally going to the ball not for a girls' night out, but to meet up with her friend, who she later discovers is a prince. The plot hole with the evil stepmother not recognizing her at the ball is fixed because the fairy godmother cast a spell on her, which makes it so that her stepmother won't recognize her. The prince has an actual personality, and he's marrying because it's his dying father's last wish. The music is good, the effects are good, the whole story is good. It's surprising, but yeah, this is a Disney live-action adaptation that improved over the original. I don't know if it's because I saw the Amazon one first before I watched this, but yeah, it's amazing. Okay, now we're getting into the movies that are absolute travesties. Of course, we're starting with Pinocchio, because I want to save Mulan for last. So the thing is, Disney doesn't actually pay off critics, with physical money that is, because if they did that, yeah, they would go bankrupt. Instead, they allow critics to see their movies early, that is, if they give a good review to it. But this movie was so bad that not even the critics were willing to defend it. It has a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you know anything about Disney's relationship with Rotten Tomatoes, you know that's a very bad critic score for them. Even before this movie came out, people were not happy with it. Del Toro has been working on his own Pinocchio movie for a very long time, and this just comes along to upstage it. And while Disney movies as of late haven't had the best CGI, in this one it's clearly worse than normal.
Well, of course it is! We had to rush through the effects to get it out before Del Toro did, and I should probably shut up now.
You would think Pinocchio would easily translate into CGI, but this just looks awful. You also wouldn't be able to understand this movie if you haven't seen the original. Like when the fox tries to tempt Pinocchio, saying he doesn't have to go to school. Instead, he can become a famous YouTuber. Pinocchio, don't fall for it. I'm still not a real boy. So Jiminy says to Pinocchio, "Pinocchio, remember that talk we had about temptation?" And Pinocchio is like, "No, because we never had that talk in the movie. We only had it in the original animated one." What did they change about this movie? Well, remember the shadowy figures we saw at Pleasure Island? Well, now they're actual shadow monsters. Monstero is no longer just a whale, he's a fucking sea monster with an evil laugh. The blue fairy is a black guy now. Oh, of course, they gave the role of a character who was barely in the movie to a minority. There's a new girl character who uses a girl puppet because she broke her leg or something. Oh, and the talking seagull, of course. You could write both of these things out and barely anything in the movie would change. By the way, remember how in the animated movie that Trimboli just kind of got away with what he did? Which I think is actually a really good lesson for kids. Sometimes bad people just get away with doing bad things. Well, in this movie, he's arrested. Pinocchio's not around for it. It kind of happens off screen, but whatever. But by far, the worst change in the movie is that Pinocchio isn't bad. He has no need for a conscience in the first place. He doesn't even drink beer or smoke. He gets root beer, which he barely drinks. Like, remember how in the original, when the other kid was turning into a donkey, Pinocchio started thinking it might have been the alcohol or what he was smoking? Well, now we can't have that. It's just the kid turning into a donkey. It's even left up in the air at the end if Pinocchio becomes a real boy or not. But the best scene by far is when Geppetto dies. Pinocchio starts crying and he sings "Wish Upon a Star," which brings Geppetto back to life. This happened in another Pinocchio movie. Pinocchio, A True Story, the Russian one. The one where Pinocchio is voiced by Pauly Shore. Disney actually ripped that movie off, and I just find that to be hilarious. So now we only have one more to go over. The one I consider to be the worst one of them all. The live-action Mulan movie. If you're a fan of my channel, or if you at the very least seen my Disney Sues video, you would know that I have a huge problem with all of these Disney Mary Sues. Whether it be Rey, Captain Marvel, or for this video, Mulan. I don't think Belle is one just because she invents the washing machine, or Princess Jasmine, or Maleficent, or any of the Disney live-action female characters. Except for one, Mulan. Now, in my opinion, she's not as bad as Rey or Captain Marvel. but she's still a pretty big Mary Sue. And now that you're here, Mickey, can you answer a question for me?
Sure, Jar. Anything.
Why are there so many overpowered female Mary Sues in your movies as of late?
Oh boy, the answer to that one is easy. You see, by law, companies can get tax breaks. If they're progressive, that is. But China, the country my friend Winnie the Pooh runs, doesn't like people who are part of the LGBT community. And especially none of those non-white people.
Wait a second, did you almost call people of African descent the N-word?
Oh, I've been around longer than the 1950s, give me a break. But the point is, so we don't lose money from China, we put all of our progressive points into women.
Could you dial it back at least by 20%?
No.
Well, you can't blame a bot for trying. Anyways, now I'm gonna go over why Captain Marvel, Mulan, is a Mary Sue. First of all, in this adaptation, she's born with chi, which is not from the Disney movie, the poem, or as far as I know, no other adaptation of Mulan. Now, I'm not saying being born with cheese makes Mulan a Mary Sue, because there are countless main characters who are born with a special ability that the overwhelming majority of people don't have. To be perfectly honest, if this was an original story, with the exact same premise with a woman who joins the military but she has a superpower that allows her to be better than everybody else, I would be totally okay with it, and I wouldn't call that character a Mary Sue. In fact, when you really think about it, that's basically what the first Wonder Woman movie was about. But they only added this in so they could take out any struggle she had in the original movie. Remember when she used her wit to climb the tower with the 2 weights instead of her brute strength like everybody else did? That's gone now. Remember when she used that firework missile to cause an avalanche, destroying the Hun army? Yeah, she's way too powerful now to use her intelligence. Forget a girl who has a brain who always speaks her mind. Now it's about a girl with cheese so she can cheese her way to victory. But another point for her being a Mary Sue is that she's the only one who's useful and does anything. Jim Po, Yao, and Mo Lin from the animated movie weren't exactly wiping out the entire Hun army single-handedly, but they at least got a moment to shine when they snuck into the Emperor's palace. The soldiers in Wonder Woman at least helped her out. Remember when they helped her to do that shield jump? And the other Amazonian women were also pretty badass. In the live-action Mulan, aside from the Emperor doing one cool thing, everybody else is completely useless. But I've already made like a half a dozen videos on Mary Sue's. I have an entire playlist for it, so if you guys are interested, go check those videos out. But I think the majority of you who are subscribed to my channel are probably sick of me talking about it. So let's move on to what else is wrong with this movie. Well, a few of the characters have been changed, such as Mushu. Yeah, this movie wants to be more serious than the original, so they replaced the comedic relief voiced by Eddie Murphy with a phoenix. Oh, what does it do? I don't know, but it's certainly there. The thing is, the Chinese phoenix represents high virtue. It does not represent rising from the ashes and being born anew. That's the Egyptian phoenix. And Mickey, before you say,
ho ho, it is supposed to represent high virtue. God damn it, Char, was that supposed to be your impression of me?
Then that's pretty lame. Oh, she has a phoenix with her, which represents high virtue. I mean, I guess she's virtuous for taking the place of her father in the war, but aside from that, she's not really super virtuous in any other way. Even if the Chinese phoenix did represent rising from the ashes and being born anew, she's always powerful from the start. Sure, this could have worked in the original version, but not in this one. The fun grandma is replaced by a little sister whose only purpose is to say, "I'm afraid of spiders," leading to her later on screaming after seeing a spider, causing Mulan to fail the matchmaker test. But remember the weakest part of the animated movie? The villain, the guy who was the leader of the Huns? Well, he's still boring as he ever was, but this time he got a sorceress with him, who is also really boring, and because she's a woman, she gets a chance to redeem herself, because in modern movies, no woman can ever be evil. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention that Shang got split into 2 people, one guy who likes Mulan and the other guy who's, you know, the captain. You see, because of the Me Too movement, Disney was like, oh no, we can't have Mulan liking an officer who's superior to her, even though in the original animated movie, he never used his status and power to get with her, but whatever. Hell, in the animated movie, I would say she's actually above Chang, considering all of China bowed to her. Oh yeah, there's also no songs in this movie. What a bummer. Now, of course, there's the controversy of Disney working alongside 4 Xinjiang propaganda departments. They were filming right next to concentration camps. One of the departments they worked with was responsible for overlooking the camps. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, the Chinese government has been putting the Muslim minority population into concentration camps, known as the Uyghurs. You know, as a white man, I don't know if I can say that word. Maybe if I call them Uyghurs, it will be a little bit more appropriate. Disney even thanked this organization in the credits. In America, politicians of both sides called Disney out for this. And the Chinese government, not wanting their people to know about this, ordered media outlets to not talk about the movie. Mulan was even deleted as a search term on some of their websites.
But Jar, the scene we filmed there only comprised of 78 seconds of the movie!
Then don't film there or cut it out of your movie. Now, I understand that other movies have bent the knee to China so they can get those precious Chinese bucks. But this is just a new low. And Disney certainly didn't get as much money from China as they were hoping, due to all the media outlets not talking about it. I would do a full deep dive into this movie, but just stop in cynical reviews. Already did that, so just go check those videos out. But at the very least, I'm so happy to be finally done with this video. Mulan is certainly the worst Disney live-action movie, and... Mickey?
Yeah?
What's that?
Nothing?
Give it here. A Peter Pan live-action movie that you put on Disney Plus instead of releasing it to theaters.
I was hoping you didn't see that.
Okay, so while this movie doesn't have the same controversy as the Mulan movie did, as a film based on just its own merits, I would say it's even worse than the Mulan movie! Making Mulan an overpowered Mary Sue is one thing, but making Wendy fucking Wendy one? What kind of fairy dust were the writers snorting? So Wendy doesn't want to grow up and be a woman. Instead, she wants to spend her days sword fighting with her younger brothers. Apparently, her hard, grueling training of playing with wooden swords against children will allow her to take on fully grown battle-hardened pirates. Fuck, if only Zorro practiced with a wooden sword as a kid, he would already be able to beat Hawkeye Mihawk. By the way, while she's sword fighting with her brother, she breaks a mirror, and when her parents come in and ask who did it, she blames her own brothers. Wow, what a bitch. Why did she do this? Well, because they're playing pirates, aren't they? Every man for themselves. Okay, when most kids play pirates, they don't backstab each other. They're just using wooden swords and Nerf guns. But pirates do not believe in every man for himself. They work extremely closely with one another. In fact, they're one of the most socialist groups of people to ever exist. CGP graded a pretty good video about this, so I'll link it down below if you want more information. But here's how the wealth is distributed once the pirates get the booty. The captain gets 2 shares, the quartermaster 1 1/2, the carpenter 1 1/4, the surgeon also 1 1/4, and everybody else gets 1 share. Sure, it's not perfectly even, but it's pretty damn close. Oh boy, they race-bent Tinkerbell. Of course they would do that to the character with barely any, if any, lines at all. Boy, Tinkerbell is looking a lot more darker than normal. And no, I'm not just saying that because she's black. Where's her glow? It's barely in this movie. Way to go, Disney! Having the one black version of Tinkerbell have the least amount of glow was definitely a progressive idea. Nah, I don't glow, man. That's some white fairy shit. Peter Pan along with Black Tinkerbell show up, and they take Wendy along with her brothers to Neverland. But they come across Captain Hook in less than 5 minutes, and they take a cannonball point blank to the face? Like, look at this. It's heading right towards Wendy's face. Holy shit, she's already more powerful than Mulan. Like, I'm no physicist, but I'm pretty sure a cannonball blast this close would have killed all of them. The shrapnel alone would have turned him into mincemeat. Oh yeah, by the way, the design of Neverland is so bland and boring. Look how it looked in the original movie when they first showed up. In fact, Neverland basically looks better in every other adaptation of Peter Pan. This just looks like a black lump of coal coming out of the water. Why is there so little color in this movie? Oh, I should probably get this out of the way now. The mermaids do show up, but they don't do anything in this movie. They're just there in the water. Wendy comes across the diverse Lost Boys, and no, I'm not calling them diverse just because they're multiracial. I'm calling them that because a few of them are girls. Wendy says, "But you're not all boys." And they say, "So?" And then she says, "I guess it really doesn't matter, does it?" Okay, screenwriters, I see what you're trying to do there. At least it was a fourth wall joke that was actually somewhat subtle. Now, I'm totally cool with the Lost Boys being multiracial. After all, Peter Pan probably went to other places in the world aside from London. I'm also happy they didn't make them all black because that would have had some pretty bad implications.
Oh yeah, we're the Lost Boys because we're black and our fathers abandoned us.
But here's the issue that I have with them being girls. You see, biologically speaking, girls mature faster than boys. This is why on average women do better in school, and part of the reason as to why they commit less crimes. In the original book, it's mentioned that none of the Lost Boys are girls because girls are too clever to be caught by Peter. So yes, it does matter. But does this change add anything to the movie? Nope. Oh yeah, by the way, do not listen to the media when they tell you,
This is the first Peter Pan movie where the Lost Boys were culturally diverse.
because there's a well-known live-action Peter Pan sequel starring Robin Williams. People absolutely love the Lost Boys in those movies, especially Rufio, who got his own spin-off movie. Dante Bosco, the original actor, was even in it. For those of you who don't know that actor, you might know him as the voice for Zuko, and Jake Long, the American Dragon. Tiger Lily is also there, and she's the leader of the Lost Boys. Okay, so to be fair, I understand that there is a problem with the original animated movie. The way they depicted Native Americans was pretty offensive. I guess you could say that Tiger Lily was okay, but the rest of them certainly weren't. But how cool would it be if instead of her being the leader of the Lost Boys, they went back to her tribe and we got Native Americans versus pirates? Oh yeah, she also sometimes speaks in her native language, but she can also speak English. I don't know if the other Lost Boys can understand her, but I like to think they can't. Now, while Wendy found the Lost Boys, her brothers didn't, and they ended up getting captured by Captain Hook. So they attempt a rescue mission. Wendy, of course, does most of the work. She even saves Peter's life, and afterward, she bitch slaps him in the face. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest here. Despite this movie having Peter Pan in the title, you could write him out and almost nothing in the movie would change. Peter Pan was such an alpha male Sigma Chad in the animated movie, and this one, he's just a little bitch. I'm joking, of course. Peter Pan is not just a little bitch. He's a straight up villain in this movie. And no, not a cool one like he was in Once Upon a Time. He's one of those Disney characters that does actions that are absolutely objectively evil, but just like with Wanda and the Enchantress, we're supposed to sympathize with him and see him as the good guy. I'll give Disney credit, at least they did this with a guy instead of a girl. Basically, him and Hook used to be best friends, but then Hook got sad because he missed his mom. He went out to find her, but he got lost at sea. Then a group of pirates took him in and raised him as one of their own. He eventually made it back to Neverland, and Peter Pan, when he saw his friend after so many years, decided to cut his hand off and feed it to a crocodile. Yeah, Peter Pan did that in the original, but they weren't friends, they were enemies. He basically took away his best friend's ability to jerk it. Also, feeding a part of his flesh to that crocodile means that the crocodile hungers for the rest of his flesh. So he essentially cursed him on top of all of that. Still doesn't make him as evil as Wanda or the Enchantress, but still, this is an absolutely evil thing to do. Like, I do get that they're trying to make Hook sympathetic, even though there was no need to. Jack Horner was an awesome villain. Come on, can't we have someone be evil for the sake of being evil? But this was such a horrible way to go about it that it makes Peter Pan look like the true villain of the story. Oh, and it's even revealed that Hook didn't even go look for his mother willingly. Peter actually banished him from the island. So just like in the original movie, Hook finds the hideout of the Lost Boys. Now, in the original animated movie, he found it thanks to the help of Tinker Bell. You see, Tink was jealous of Wendy, and she worked with Captain Hook in an attempt to get rid of her so she could have Peter all to herself. But that would mean a woman did something bad, and we can't have that in modern movies. Instead, Hook finds it because Wendy was singing. Wow, good going giving away your location, you dumb bitch. He mentions how he remembers playing hide and seek in the hideout. Wait a second, does that mean he knew where it was? Why didn't he search for this place to begin with? I mean, if me and Professor Dreadlock were in a hideout, he cut off my hand and banished me, and I wanted to get back at him, the hideout would be the first place I looked. Him and Peter Pan fight. He slashes Peter across the chest, and Peter falls like 100 feet, shattering his bones and organs. I'm joking, of course. The dude took a cannonball blast at basically point-blank range. Does he get healed by Tinkerbell or something? Nope. Instead, Tiger Lily just uses some herbs to heal him, and they make it clear it's not magic. Apparently, Native American herbs can do this. So Wendy, along with everybody else, are captured, and Hook forces her to walk the plank. Okay, he wasn't going to make her walk the plank first. It was actually going to be one of her brothers. But then she yells out, "I volunteer as tribute!" Even though it's kind of pointless because they're going to walk the plank a little bit later. I guess she wanted her brothers to watch her die first. But remember, in order to fly, all it takes is a little faith and trust, happy thoughts, and a little bit of pixie dust. So Wendy imagines all the girl boss things she's going to do when she grows up, which will end with her dying dying alone without any friends or family around her. Isn't it weird that Wendy's ideal life is the same ideal life that the writers in Hollywood have? Wendy starts flying, and she even levitates the entire ship, making her more powerful than Peter Pan ever was, who didn't even need to save her in this version, because she's too much of a girl boss for that. Also, by modern movie law, a man can never save a woman. And we get the absolute most cringe-inducing line in the entire movie. Hook says, "You have the boy's magic," and Wendy replies back to him, "No, this magic belongs to no boy!" Holy shit, this is pandering. And completely forced as well. Hook, you also presumably flew to the island with Peter, along with all the other lost boys and girls. Wouldn't you assume that she flew here as well? This power is given to people by the fairies. It's not an exclusive thing. All the writers, directors, producers, and actors were apparently okay with this cringe line. Anyways, girl boss Wendy starts fighting off the pirates. Apparently playing with wooden swords and having the ability to fly allows you to take on battle-hardened adult pirate males. But Wendy's not the only girl boss. Tiger Lily shows up as well to join the fight, and she's also a complete badass, taking on 2 pirates immediately by herself. Oh, that's why the rest of the Native Americans didn't show up. They would have only been a distraction, so we couldn't focus on this absolute beautiful and brave, powerful woman. I actually burst out laughing when she told Wendy's brothers in her native tongue to get behind her. Lady, they've only been in Neverland for like a day. They've never met you before. They're clearly European. Why do you think they can understand you? Well, guess what? Apparently they do understand her. Language barriers? What are those? The ship floats up in the air and capsizes, causing all the pirates to fall, including Peter. Yeah, apparently he lost his ability to fly. Why did he lose it? Well, obviously, so Wendy can save him. Again. She gives him some of her pixie dust. Apparently you can transfer it from one person to another. Peter Pan beats Hook, but doesn't stab him. Instead, he drops his sword, because according to him, it's not fun anymore. Wait, it was fun for you when you chopped off his hand? So Hook is like, bro, you ruined my life. Nah, I ain't letting you back out of this. Wendy saves Peter yet again, and is also the one to finish off Captain Hook. Peter Pan tries to save Hook, giving him his pixie dust, telling him he needs to think of his happy memories so he can fly. But Hook has no happy memories. And can you really blame the guy after what Peter did to him? Wait, can't he just imagine himself having a better life in the future like Wendy did? Oh, whatever. Hook falls into the water, and Peter Pan starts crying because he was his friend. A friend he chopped off the hand of, but still his friend. Wendy sees him crying, and instead of comforting him, she's like, "Oh, let's go home, Peter and the Lost Boys." She goes home with all the Lost Boys. She just dumps them all onto her parents. I don't think they have the money to afford this. I think a lot of them are going into foster care, or maybe even the streets. Good God, given how England was in this time period, what's gonna happen to the non-white ones? Hell, even some of the white ones who are Scottish and Irish might have a hard time. They just dealt with a psychological situation involving pirates. We don't know how long each of them was taken from their own home, so a few of them might be in a completely different time period than what they're used to. Why did they all want to go back? There was no build-up to this. They were surviving in the wilderness and don't have the best education. They're in the upper-class part of London, and they've been kids for so long, most rich families won't want to put up with them. These kids are fucked! I guess Peter is gonna have to return and take them all back to Neverland. Great going, Wendy. Peter Pan reveals that he used to live here, and that his mother died, so he's not staying, and he leaves. Wendy apparently can understand Tinkerbell now. You see, despite Peter Pan knowing Tinkerbell for years, he never took the time to listen to her. Tinkerbell, Wendy can only understand you because you went up to her ear and spoke into it. You should have done that with Peter. Okay, finally, we're at the last scene. Peter returns to Neverland and finds his friend Captain Hook, and it's implied they're gonna be friends again. Considering that they're both villains, I don't really blame them. Maybe they're gonna go and invade Tiger Lily's village together.
Yeah, I really didn't want this movie to be in theaters. Goofy suggested that we put it on Disney Plus. Boy, I've been losing a lot of subscribers for that streaming service as of late. But it's fine, everything's gonna be okay. I'm Mickey Mouse after all. I'm in charge of the biggest media company in the world. Nothing is gonna stop me.
Yeah, Mickey, just keep doubling down. I can't wait to see your company selling off a lot of the IPs that you bought. Now, Disney has had a lot of girl boss high-gloss Mary Sue characters in their movies as of late. But never so many in one movie. We have Tiger Lily, who's never saved. In fact, she saves Peter, and of course she's a badass with the sword. Tinkerbell never backstabs Wendy, because women always get along with each other. And of course there's Wendy. Wow. I would go as far as to say that she's an even bigger Mary Sue than Mulan. The original one was so motherly, while this one makes it clear she never wants kids. While Wendy was a damsel in distress in the original movie, she was also kind and caring. She was more mature than anyone else, and she realized that growing up, while it can be a scary thing, is a natural progression in life. Peter Pan helped her realize that. She grew up and moved forward while Peter Pan did not. And as for Peter Pan, where to start? He's so evil. He's by far the weakest version of Peter Pan. He's saved by Wendy 3 times and by Tiger Lily once. Sure, the original Disney Peter Pan did have a lot of issues. It was pretty sexist towards girls and had some racism as well. But the pendulum has swung in the complete opposite direction now. When was the last time a man saved a woman in a modern movie? Can someone please tell me in the comments? Disney already had this shit figured out in the 2010s. In Tangled, both Flynn Rider and Rapunzel were pretty badass, and they took turns saving one another. In Princess and the Frog, both Tiana and Prince Naveen learned stuff from one another. Prince Naveen wasn't just there to remind her how amazing she truly is. So yeah, Peter Pan is by far the worst Disney live-action movie I have seen yet. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. While the critics did give it above average score on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience gave it... wait, where is it?
Oh, where could it be? It seems to have vanished.
Mickey, give it here. Oh my god, that's such a bad score. It's almost at 10%. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Disney tried to hide the score until people started calling them out for it. Disney is just taking some of their beloved old works that have stood the test of time, fixing a few small things, but adding in way more things that are just terrible. 90% of which are identity politics.
Okay, Jar, that's the last movie. You can end the video now.
Yeah, I guess you're right, and wait a second. The Little Mermaid movie is coming out on the 26th, and I'm recording this part of the video on the 20th. Well, I guess I'll push this video back by a week. No! Okay, so there's something that I haven't gone over in this video until now. All of the trailers for the recent live-action Disney adaptions are completely ratioed. The older ones, for the most part, look fine. Even the Mulan movie has a pretty good like-to-dislike ratio. But live-action Pinocchio, Peter Pan and Wendy, and The Little Mermaid, holy crap! All 3 of them have hundreds of thousands of dislikes, except for the Little Mermaid one, because the official trailer for it on the YouTube channel Walt Disney Studios has millions of dislikes. To put this in perspective for you, the most disliked video on YouTube is YouTube Rewind 2018. This trailer has more than 1/10 of the amount of dislikes that video got. Just imagine if you had more than 1/10 of the net worth of Elon Musk. Unless it's something lame like running at 1/10 of the speed as Usain Bolt. Being at over 10% of any record is pretty rare to do. And something tells me that Disney is going to make another live-action movie that is going to break this one's record. Something also tells me that a lot of those dislikes started popping up once they saw the design of Sebastian. Flounder looks a little bit better, but it's still pretty bad. Say what you will about the live-action Lion King, but at least it translates into live-action a little better. As much as I hate on the Phoenix from Mulan, I am so glad they didn't give us a live-action version of Mushu. Granted, he could have easily translated into live-action, but let's be honest here, do you guys really think they would have done a good job with him? Honestly, when it comes to Flounder and Sebastian, I think they should have done the same thing to them as they did with Mushu. Just cut them out altogether. I'm going to be 100% honest here. The original design for the live-action Sonic, aka Ugly Sonic, looked better than them. Oh yeah, and Scuttle has been gender bent for some reason, but the live-action design of him, I mean her, looks fine. Not as good as the original, but it's okay. It doesn't really help the movie that they gender bent Scuttle, but it doesn't really hurt it either. So before this movie came out, I tried to do research on it, and I heard about the novelization of this movie, which was actually the second one I ever read. The first one was The Incredibles. And for the most part, the novelization of The Incredibles movie was actually pretty damn accurate. So when I was seeing things in this novel, like Ariel being the one to slay Ursula the Sea Witch, I already knew exactly what to expect from this movie. Okay, much like EDP, I have lollygagged for long enough. I'm just gonna quickly share my thoughts on the animated movie, and then I'll review the live action one. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I understand that the animated movie is adored by a lot of people, but I only think it's a good movie. Not a great movie, not a fantastic movie, but just a good movie. For all the Disney movies that I have seen, I don't even think I would put it in my top 20. By the way, that list does not include Marvel or Star Wars. Yes, there are a lot of funny moments in this movie, and Ariel is incredibly expressive. I always knew that taking away a woman's ability to speak would make her more attractive. But my biggest problem with the movie is that Ariel doesn't get any character development at all. She sees a guy she likes because he's attractive, and despite never having a conversation with him, she decides to become human so she can meet him. But in order to do so, she has to strike a deal with a sea witch while she holds on to her voice, and if she doesn't get the guy to fall in love with her within 3 days, she'll belong to Ursula. Later, this stupid mistake of course blows up in her face. Her dad sacrifices himself for her, and now Ursula is the new god of the sea, which is basically very bad for everyone in the world. Prince Eric manages to defeat the sea witch, and King Triton decides to make Ariel human again, so she can live with Eric. So she wants something, does something stupid to get it. Her mistake nearly causes the deaths of several people, and then she gets what she wanted in the end. Aside from saving Eric, she doesn't do anything in the movie. I guess she's more assertive than Snow White and Cinderella, which was one of the main reasons why this movie got so much praise when it came out. But that's a pretty low bar to jump over. King Triton, on the other hand, is the one with all the character development. He's extremely prideful, arrogant, and overly protective of his children. He's so racist, or I guess in this case it would be speciest, against humans that he won't hear his daughter out. Once he finds all of her human merchandise, he goes into a fit of rage, destroying all of it. But immediately afterwards, he feels bad. Once his daughter goes missing, he feels crushed. He completely blames himself, and once he finds out that she's still alive, not wanting to lose her again, he takes her place. Becoming an ugly sea worm is a pretty big downgrade from being a god of the ocean. Once everything is brought back to normal, he's less racist against humans and allows his daughter to move out, so she can be with a human man.
What? Are you saying black people aren't human?
No, that's not what I meant, Professor Dreadlock! So yeah, those are my issues with the animated Disney Little Mermaid movie. And yes, I did get a lot of those opinions from a video that is over 10 years old that was made by Nostalgia Chick, aka Lindsay Ellis. Anyways, now it's time that I dive right in and review the 2023 live-action Little Mermaid movie. So unlike a lot of other Disney live-action remakes that either use the same amount of songs, less songs, or no songs at all, like in the Mulan movie, this live-action adaptation actually added more songs. Are they any good? No, they are not. The prince has his own song, and wow, he's somehow even more auto-tuned than Emma Watson was when she played Belle. I didn't even think that was possible. Scuttle has a rap song, and it might just be the worst Disney song that I have ever heard in my life. Oh yeah, and apparently birds can breathe underwater in this universe. Scuttle is not going back up for air. She's under the water for several minutes. Also, this erases a very important plot point in the animated movie, because when King Triton hears about Ariel and Flounder talking to a seagull, he knows that they went up to the surface, which is a perfect segue for him to talk about why he doesn't like the human world. But this movie just had to have a rap in it. Why? Well, it's because it's the black version of The Little Mermaid. Oh, Mickey, that's what I love about you most. You're like a really racist great-grandpa, who's clearly putting effort into not being racist, but tends to fail at least 15 times when you visit him.
Listen here, Jar. I may have done blackface in the past. No, seriously, I did. Look it up. But I am now a changed mouse. I have several friends who are well-respected black men.
And let me guess, you compliment them on how articulate they are. Of course! Mickey, never change, man. Now, as for the songs they use from the previous movies, they do change them slightly. Most of the changes are inconsequential, except for the Under the Sea song, because Ariel sings along in some moments, and writers, you do know that the Under the Sea song is about how great the sea is compared to the surface, right? The song is sung by Sebastian to get Ariel to stay in the sea. Why would she start singing along with it? Oh yeah, and of course, a lot of the visuals that are under the sea sea are darker than a Christopher Nolan movie. Sure, I guess there are some parts that are bright and colorful, but for the most part the sea looks like the actual sea, which is not a good thing, mind you. This isn't Aquaman 2, this is a Disney movie. Oh, and this movie is pretty diverse, especially when it comes to the daughters of King Triton. Man, dude, all your kids look different from one another. You must have really got around. Wait a second, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 seas and you got 7 daughters. King Trident, you sea dog, you. Also, the human king is black. So is Prince Eric also black? No, because he's adopted. If he's adopted, wouldn't that make him lower in line for succession than a fucking bastard? Anyways, remember how the animated movie started? With that fish managing to get off the boat. Well, in this version, a bunch of sailors are throwing harpoons at Ariel as if she's Moby Dick. So in this version of the movie, instead of Ariel going to the surface because of love, she's going because she wants to be a part of the human world. Personally, if a bunch of people threw spears at me, I would want to have nothing to do with them. All of the mermaids are meeting up for the Coral Gathering, which for some reason the humans know about. How do the humans know about it? No idea. Will this add anything to the plot? Of course not. In the original animated movie, they were actually meeting up to celebrate Ariel's birthday, who is the daughter of their king, a very important figure. Because she had such a beautiful voice, Sebastian wrote this whole song for her to sing. This shows the viewer the significance of her voice, but now it's just some random gathering. Ariel is searching through the sunken ships. Now, a lot of people had an issue with her knowing what a cannon is, but it is entirely possible that she was swimming near the surface and she saw one fire, or maybe another mermaid saw it and told her about it. She's far less likely to see someone comb their hair or eat something with a fork. I mean, at least she doesn't know something really out there, like how to steer a ship in the middle of a storm. Man, that would be dumb. When she goes up to the surface and sees the humans celebrating on their ship, she doesn't fall in love with Eric, instead she falls in love with the human world. To be perfectly honest, I actually like this change. I think it's a lot more realistic for her to fall in love with the traditions and culture of the human world than just some guy who she's never spoken to. That being said, this movie handles it poorly. Just like in the original, a storm comes out of nowhere. But unlike the original, where the boat caught on fire because lightning hit the sails, they hit a rock which causes a lantern to fall down, setting the ship ablaze, going all the way up to the sails. Now, I'm no physicist, but I'm pretty sure with how much rain there is, a lantern tipping over would not cause a fire like this. It's normal rain. They're not getting hit by the black rain technique from that one Naruto filler episode. Good God, I can't believe I actually know what that is. Ariel saves Eric, but she also saves the dog. Okay, that's a pretty good change. Oh no, wait, it was made so Eric wouldn't be the one to save the dog. We can't have a white man looking good when a black woman is around now, can we? Ursula is spying on them, and she says that Ariel has now fallen in love with the human world. Wait, what? Yeah, you know how I said the change was handled poorly? This is what I was talking about. How in the name of Cthulhu is her watching a ship being destroyed, saving a guy and his dog in any way proof that she has fallen in love with the human world? Short answer, it's not. However, it could be proof that she has fallen in love with this guy. The debris from the destroyed ships falls onto the coral reef. Good God, do those planks of wood have lead in them? How are they sinking like that? The mermaids are cleaning it up, and King Trident says that it will take 1,000 years for the coral to repair itself. No, coral grows way faster than that. Also, hashtag humans die, mermaids most affected. Okay, so I'm kind of iffy on this point because Ariel does come across the statue of Eric. However, I have no idea if it's supposed to be him or not. The animated movie made it clear, but in this movie it might just be a statue of a random guy, and I think it is. Which of course makes the scene where King Triton is destroying all her things way less impactful because it's just another random object. Oh yeah, we also don't get to see the regret in her father's face after he destroys all her things. He just leaves. Why did you take that scene out? It makes his character so much more interesting and complex. Well, at least the writers replaced it with one of the biggest cliches of all time. It turns out that Ursula is King Trident's sister. Okay, it's possible that she used magic to turn her fin into octopus tentacles. But why are they related now? Does it add anything to the story? Yeah, I think you guys already know the answer to that question. We see Ursula's garden of poor unfortunate unfortunate souls, and then they're forgotten about. Yep, they never show up again in the movie. But they were integral to the plot. Remember how freaky it was when Ariel was being turned into one? Ariel signs the contract to become human, and we get one of the dumbest changes in the entire movie. Ariel thought that in order to get legs, she just had to give up her fins and her voice. But Ursula didn't tell her that she needs to kiss a guy. The contract was supposed to be legal. Not even King Trident's own power could break it. What Ursula is doing is absolutely illegal, at least under US law. And this is only added in the movie because, well, Ariel is not supposed to be the one chasing after a man. I guess that's problematic or something. Now, Ariel's friends do find out about this, but because of Ursula's magic, even if they tell Ariel, she'll immediately forget. So they try to get the prince to kiss Ariel, and she doesn't really seem to be into it at first. So basically, she has to kiss a guy even though she doesn't know she wants to in order for her to stay human. I don't know about you guys, but I think that's a little bit more problematic. Now here's an issue that I have with both the animated movie and the live action movie. There is no reason for her to live in the palace. In the animated one, Eric just takes her in. In the live action one, Eric's parents just take her in. Like, I do get that it's a nice thing to do, but from their perspective, she's just a mute, naked peasant girl. I could picture them bringing her in the palace, but they also give her a makeover and clothes to wear. Granted, she's technically only there for 3 days, but at the end of the day, all this is just a super convenient thing that happened for the plot to move forward. And just because it was an issue with the animated movie, doesn't automatically mean that the live action movie gets a free pass. And at the very least in the animated movie, she wants to be there because she's infatuated with Eric. In the live action version, she's just there to be there. Although I will say that in the live action adaptation, the chemistry between her and Eric is done much better. So that's one compliment I can give to this film. Ursula disguises herself as a human to keep Ariel away from the prince. By the way, her human form actually looks closer to the original Disney Little Mermaid. She mind controls the prince so that they can have a wedding and get married. But then Scuttle finds a way to get around the spell. Instead of telling Ariel, she raps about it, because according to Disney, that's the only way to get through to a black woman. Instead of a whole bunch of animals attacking Ursula all at once, her and Ariel have a cat fight, and no one at the wedding is trying to do anything about it. A mute woman is attacking the prince's bride. Someone should step in. Well, the prince tries to, but people hold him back. Ariel wins, she gets her voice back, her and Eric almost kiss, but the time limit runs out, she turns back into a mermaid, Ursula takes her into the ocean, but then King Trident shows up to fix everything. Oh wait, never mind, apparently Ursula doesn't need to use the contract as a shield, she can just put up magic barriers to block King Trident's energy blast. Instead of turning Ariel into some sea worm thing, she gets her 2 eels to shock her to death, unless King Trident signs the contract. Wait, couldn't she have done that from the start? Did she really need to have this long and complicated plan? King Trident signs the contract, Ursula gets his pitchfork, and then King Trident is killed? Yeah, he's not turned into a worm thing, he gets completely disintegrated into dust! So remember how the ending fight went down in the animated version? Well, it's kind of like that, except for the roles between Ariel and Eric are reversed. Now I get what Disney is trying to do. They're trying to say, haha, we reversed their roles, so this time you can't call her a Mary Sue, or you'll be admitting that Eric is a Mary Sue. The thing is, I don't think she's a Mary Sue, but I do think this whole role reversal is stupid. Ariel originally being trapped in the center of a water vortex makes sense because she's a mermaid. She's really good at swimming. A water vortex would keep her trapped. But with Eric, he's a human! Just keep him under the water for a few minutes, he'll drown! Eric is an experienced sailor, and he's been in storms before, so he would know how to control a ship. Ariel, on the other hand, has never steered a ship, or anything for that matter, and she got no legs just like McGregor. So how can she keep her balance? Okay, let's just wrap this movie up. Ursula is defeated. Somehow this randomly brings King Triton back to life. Blah 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 stuff happens and then the movie is over. My god, this was painful. I'm gonna be honest here, this was nowhere near the worst Disney live action remake. But it was just dumb, bland, and boring. And honestly, that's a good way to sum up most of the Disney live action movies. Of course, the actress is trying to say that people didn't like this movie because they are racist. Yeah, I don't believe this is her true opinion. She's She's been in tons of movies before this one. And while Halle Berry is black, she's very light black. She could easily pass the paper bag test. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Now, there's some controversy surrounding the Chinese poster of this film. Looking at it, yeah, it's really hard to tell if the Little Mermaid is black or not. As I've said before, Disney wants to appear progressive, but they also really want money from China. Unfortunately for them, China only likes black people a little bit more than they like gay people. And if you know anything about how they feel about gay people, then you know that a lot of people in China won't go to see a movie with a black person on the poster. Granted, China also has their own social media, so news about this movie has already spread far and wide. In China, the film has only made $13,000 in pre-sales. Yeah, it doesn't look good for this movie. It's probably gonna be another flop for Disney. By the way, why is the audience score for this movie on Rotten Tomatoes at a 95%? Yeah, those numbers don't seem to be inflated at all. So now that I have reviewed every single Disney live-action movie, what are my ending thoughts? Well, for the longest time I thought I was going crazy because I never liked any of these movies, but a ton of people seem to get a lot of enjoyment out of them. But it turns out that I'm not crazy, I'm just ahead of the curve. Or it could be that these movies have gotten worse and worse over time. Yeah, it's probably that. These live-action remakes are nothing new to me. Disney has always tried to capture their golden years again. They did it with direct-to-video sequels, TV shows, and now live-action movies. But unlike the other two, it was extremely financially successful for a very long time. Disney has been down bad for the last couple of years now. At least here on YouTube, I've been seeing less and less people defending them. The trust for Disney has been going down. Disney stocks have been going down. And worst of all, I don't see them turning things around anytime soon. Not only do they have more Marvel and Star Wars movies planned, but they have more Disney live-action adaptations ready to come out the pipeline. The best case scenario is that they'll finally turn things around in a half a decade. They have pretty much milked their nostalgia cow dry, and their new original works are also not doing so hot. The chances for a company as big as Disney failing is slim to none, but the chances that another media company will take their place is looking more and more possible every single day. They'll just keep doubling down over and over again, taking one step forward and 3 steps back into a puddle. Mickey, I hate to say that I, and many others like me, told you so, but we told you so. Hey, I just want to thank all my patrons. If you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. People who donate to me $5 or more a month can have me say any line of their choosing at the end of a video. And finally, I got my first one from Danger Dan. He wanted me to say, "Why should I change? I'm great. It's everyone else here who sucks." But once again, I want to thank everybody who donates money to me. And hey, guess what? I'm going to VidCon this year. I hope to see you there.